Tacos and sushi, tacos and sushi, tacos and sushi, and antidepressants. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another animation breakdown reaction combo. Today we have the Invitation to Wine event teaser. This one was technically recommended by someone in my Discord called FYI Dude, but Kasumatsu is the one who put it in there and then said to credit him for it. So he's abusing his power, and it's only been like 2 months. Patreon, go to Patreon. All in good fun, of course. Obviously, I'm going to be giving this one a watch, and let's see what we can do when it gets to the breakdown section. Shall we? Let's go. There's that water again. Not as raging as last time, but still very pretty. I love the coloring on this one. Very muted, but it really punches it into light. Like the yellows are actually very well toned. It's like they're removing every hue other than most of the warm tones. I like that. Ooh, great reflection, great framing on that. That was gorgeous. Okay. There's those volumetrics again. In reverse, okay, all right. You had my curiosity, now you have my attention. Obviously, this is a very easy thing to pull off in a general sense, but it's a really cool visual effect when done well. Ooh. Jeez, okay. She's just like, yeah, what a hell of a night. Oh. Okay, interesting. All right, I think I have some things I can talk about on this one. And welcome to the breakdown section. So this one has spots that I think I'll highlight more than I will break down too many things. It has some clever ideas that I want to bring forward and let you guys know why they're important and clever. But I don't know if there'll be so many spots where I'll be able to break down frame by frame like I've done in other ones. So we'll figure out as we go along. I might get a little bit spicy and a little bit more creative with how I explain things, but let's just start with the simple ones like this. This water is just so pretty, all up in this business. I don't have to circle any specific part of it. You can see the water, but specifically how it's displacing is so nice. It's a simple water sim. Everyone does it in CG. It's perfectly fine and very well suited, but these reflections and everything, the way that it reacts to the environment and the way that it treats the colors and everything is so very on point. The way that the shading is reacting to the color hues of the water is very nice. It's muting everything just slightly and giving it a blue tint just a little bit. You can really notice it around spots like this that it's definitely a little bit more blue than the source material above it on land. And it's just little things like that. This is obviously just one shot of a couple in this, and it's just the best example of where you can see it happening. But simple water physics, not too much to shine a light on. So basically just good water. The lighting was handled well, the hues and everything, the way that it shifted, like I had mentioned, all of this stuff looks really well done, and they took it all into account. And that's really all you can ask for when it comes to water. This is just another highlight of their great simulation work. They really didn't have to put in this much effort to get this snow to look just as powdery and fluffy as it does, but they did, and I definitely appreciate it. They had it falling down in clumps and kind of just dissipating into a mist of snow. It just looks really nice. The cloud is very empty, and that's very characteristic of this fluffier, lighter snowfall, not the heavy stuff, the really wet, heavy snow that lands all over the place and is a pain in the butt to shovel, but I won't let my personal life get into this. Either way, looks great, and I just appreciate the little effort that they did to make it a little bit more fluffy. Another really small detail that I just wanted to highlight here was this inclusion of right around this area. You see it kind of pop in here in the next couple of frames. It's just a little bit of a lens flare. Nothing that fancy, but it's that rainbow one I've talked about in prior videos that I really like, and it's just not used as much, and it really does add some extra color to something that is so muted. And it's very muted itself, despite it being sort of like a rainbow. It's just a nice thing to add in there. It adds a little bit of flavor, and it just feels really nice on top of everything else that is otherwise completely monochrome in this shot. This next shot is something I'm going to dig a little bit into the speculations about, because I think that there might be some clever little workings of the intention and meaning behind what exactly was done with this one. But when this little ripple happens and it kind of fluoresces out from the center, it then wraps the neck, the throat, the area there. I am not a spiritual person, but I have done plenty of research into things like chakras, and this is maybe referential to the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra. It's something that's usually aligned with the voice, of course, and open communication, the mind. This might be a subtle nod to something like that, just the fact that it was this ripple that was resonating at the point in the throat, as well as him immediately going, wait a minute, and perceiving a change that is obviously a great one coming up. I just wanted to talk about this shot purely because it looks beautiful. There's no movement happening here. I can't break much down. I did want to mention the God rays here. Those are just things usually used in visuals to show some brilliance and add a little bit of visual interest. Nothing usually too much to talk about on that end, but it just looks great the way that they highlighted it and vignetted the center and gave that mountain in the distance just a huge stage to stand on. Looks fantastic. Of course, I'm bringing back this sequence. There's not too terribly much I'm going to talk about specifically in this one because it's just a forward animation backwards, and there's not really too much to discuss on that end. You have all the physics of the cloth and the hair being tossed around. It just kind of looks cool in reverse, but there's nothing really technically that I can talk about in this one. She seems to just be fighting this cloud of energy. I'm not sure what's going on here. Again, I'm not a player. And then it just kind of ending here as if she's going forward. I think that's just a really clever sequence as a whole. This shot here I do want to talk about a little bit as this rod comes down and hits the floor, the staff. It just kind of spikes and makes all this little dust and debris show up. And it's like, yeah, that of course it would. But I appreciate the amount of effort, as per usual, that they put into their effects on this. Their team for effects is just consistently nuts with this sort of stuff, and it looks great every time. So this just little bit, having the dust fly out, the speckles, the little pieces of dirt and rock that are kind of projecting out from the sides, just good detail. The little talisman that's dangling off the end there, reacting to that shock as well and wrapping in. The ramp in and out of like fast to slow-mo is just really nice. It's so tasty visually. And as far as the camera shake adding to the impact, of course, I talked about it before. I talk about it just as much as I talk about impact frames. I love that sort of thing visually. It's so nice to have it. And here's just yet another highlight of the amazing work of the effects team on this one. These wispy, like, little shocks of whatever energy this happens to be. I can't really tell you what it would be. I don't know the game lore, like I said. I don't really understand what exactly would be going on there, but I'm just going to assume it's a general energetic burst outward from a central point, resulting in whatever energy this character is putting outward. And it just looks so good. It's this really thin, wispy, it's almost like fiery energy. I've seen it in a few projects throughout my time, and it just always looks really cool. It always has such a good character to it. It's almost like having a laser shot at something, and then when it impacts whatever it be, like a wall or a person, and then it has all of the effects spray out from it. Usually this sort of thing has that same level of this wispy energy that comes off it, and I don't exactly know what it's called because I've never had to do it myself, but it's always fun to look at. It's just such a good visual thing. And of course, I respect the use of 2D effects animation here. They do this a lot. This is nothing new, but the smoke being 2D, mixing it in with the 3D so well, utilizing the thinness that 2D is to show this thinner energy, this wispy result of something bigger, usually more bombastic, like that explosion that we just talked about. And all these little wisps are just there. They're so nice. I love them. They just delicious. This debris flying around, the particles just being thrown everywhere, little energy, maybe fire, I can't quite tell, I assume it's just energy, but either way, it looks fantastic. Just these little things that really add to the atmosphere of a shot like this. If you want energy, you have to add more, but you also need to know when to stop, and Arknights' animation team always seems to understand where that line is and not overstep the boundaries, but also not give too little either. Of course, I love this too because all it is here is just a little bit of filter work, but it's just so nice to have it there. Again, you don't have to have it, but it really adds to the camera trickery of being in the camera, being the viewer watching it from below looking up, and having this sort of blur filter add a little bit of a water effect to it because, of course, the drop landed on the camera lens. It's something that not everyone would think of, and whoever was the visual director for this one really did put in that extra effort to make sure that things felt like you were there. With pretty much every Arknights video, there has been at least one spot where I've pointed out that things look a little bit wonky, and this is going to be the shot because it looks gorgeous, right? Until you start paying attention to how cheap this cliffside and whatever this piece of decoration here on the screen looks. It really looks under-rendered. It kind of gives me like early PlayStation 3 vibes, late PlayStation 2, like a background of a fighting game that just isn't quite as important as the foreground. And when it's the focus, when this thing is the focus of the shot, it's dead center, and you're supposed to be looking at it, and they don't give it quite that much love. They seem to kind of skimp out on the lighting effects. The occlusion feels really weak around here. That's why it feels so cheap. But it's unfortunate because I know the team that did this probably didn't intend to do this and had to do it because of a time crunch or something, and they were just told to get it done and out, where they could have fixed this. They could have added a little bit more lighting to make this feel more unified, but they seem to be limited on what they were allowed to do, or it's just the fact that they were poorly directed maybe in where the light was coming from, because it does come from over here where my camera is. The light's coming at that angle, but then it feels like it's not because this is just so fluffy and thick. It looks like bad CG cream. It kind of gives me Shark Boy and Lava Girl vibes, and that's not something you want to get for a game that only came out a couple years ago and animations that are even more recent than that. All right, so what we have here is I think what may be the sleeper shot of this entire video. I think I know what's being done here. I'm not entirely positive, but I do have a theory. So this will be the most like breakdown-esque part. This shot here, as the camera sweeps down through all these clouds and everything, and it starts to reveal the lights of the city from behind the clouds. But we're already through the clouds. The clouds that were rendered were right here, and there's really not that much more. So it looks either like the city is being lit up all at once magically, or that we're still going through the clouds. And that depends on how close you look at it. I'm looking at it closer, of course. It's my job. But this cloud sheath here is all but gone at the point where this camera starts to reveal the lights. So what I think is actually being done here is that they're actually using a noise filter on two different versions of this shot. One with all of the lights off, that of course you see right here, with the only building being illuminated, being this huge one in the background. But then as we scoop down through here, it's being transformed into the other shot through a transition, and like I said, a noise transition. Basically, this is just a way of webbing a light in different factors. You can do this in Adobe After Effects amongst other programs. It's pretty common to use for stuff like this, but this is just a really nice way to use it. It's very clever to use it as a cloud pass. I'm, again, not sure if that's exactly what they're doing here. They could just be using an equivalent. I may be on the right track, but there's no way to know without asking somebody who worked on it. But I have to assume that I'm correct because it looks so much like the style of noise filters that you can get in After Effects that it must be at least something similar. So there we go, basically all the spots I really wanted to talk about this time around. If you like these videos and you want to see me break down more animation stuff, I think my next video will be a Honkai Impact one. You can go ahead and follow and etc. You know how to do all that, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!